Now, a lot has happened in recent days, Josh. We've got a lot to cover, including the US striking a trade deal with the UK. This was pretty big news, but it wasn't long before the usual suspects in the media were out to downplay the significance of the deal. Let's have a listen to MSNBC.
This is relatively low-hanging fruit. If you can't get a trade deal with the longest-standing and loyalist United States ally anywhere in the world over generations, you're going to be in trouble when you're dealing with some of the more obstreperous countries around the world, or ones that are more willing to resist your entreaties.
Josh, if it's so easy, then why didn't previous administrations do it? Why didn't Joe Biden do it? Why didn't the Obama administration do it? What can you tell me about this deal?
Okay, so this deal, I believe, really should shatter a lot of illusions as to what President Trump and MAGA more generally believe about trade and what they do not believe about trade. I think a lot of people look at President Trump, they look at him as the so-called tariff guy, and they say, this guy doesn't believe in trade. He doesn't want to trade with anyone. He wants every single product, every good, every leg of every supply chain to be made here in the United States. It's not true. What nationalists, realists, what MAGA believes is to oppose these multilateral trade boondoggles, these World Trade Organization style trade deals that loop in 20, 30 countries there, and you essentially at some point lose control over the granular details as to what is being traded there. What MAGA supports are prudential, specific, granular, bilateral trade deals. Country A and country B agree to lower trade barriers in exchange for blah, 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 blah. That's the sort of thing that the US and the UK worked out. So the fact that this happened, and it happened fairly quickly, actually, barely over a month after so-called Liberation Day at the Rose Garden, the White House there, that actually ought to be an incredibly auspicious and positive sign when it comes to other countries that are looking to negotiate, though. By the way, in response to that clip that we just heard from that, rather upset leftist, shall we say there, I would like to just say one thing. The UK and the US do have a special relationship, but the US also got its independence from the UK over 200 years ago. And in fact, if you go back and look at the American founding, Alexander Hamilton published his report on manufacture, and he presented it to Congress as the nation's first Treasury Secretary in 1791, specifically making the argument that the United States had to be trade independent of Britain, because otherwise it would not be a successful nation. So it's actually a very long history of America trying to get independent from Britain there. So actually, it's probably a bit of a bigger deal from a kind of a longer form historical view than this kind of, hurt left-wing commentator would care to point out, shall we say.
And would say there's plenty of other countries, including my own Australia, that would think we are as a bigger allies and to the US as the UK is. So for the UK to get this deal first, I think we'll be wanting to be next in line to strike a deal. Are there other deals that are imminent? Are you hearing other countries are close to an agreement?
Well, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, he was in Switzerland this past weekend. So he was meeting with his Chinese counterparts in Switzerland there. Look, Donald Trump put on social media, on Truth Social, the White House actually put out a formal official statement saying that a trade deal had been reached with China. Now, there's not a whole lot in the way of details there, but presumably there's something, because, this came out not necessarily just from social media, but the White House literally put it on whitehouse.gov from their verified social media accounts there. So hopefully we learn more. That's probably going to happen in real time here in the next 24, 48 hours or so. But it looks like U.S.-China could have an off-ramp to this trade war sooner rather than later, which is probably a good thing for consumers, as long as Donald Trump and MAGA and America get concessions out of it. As long as there's something to actually point to and say this is actually a win, then I will be optimistic for it. But again, the devil will be in the details in that one.